What is going on, everybody? So I am back today to do another list video. And the reason I wanted to do this list video is because this past weekend, the film It Ends With Us was released, which is based off of a book from Colleen Hoover. And it got me thinking about book to film adaptations. And there have been a lot of trash book to movie adaptations over the years, but there's also been a lot of really incredible book to movie adaptations. And so today, I thought I would just give you guys some of my personal favorite book to movie adaptations. I've read most of these books. Some of them I have not read, but most of them I tried to keep ones on the list that I have actually read so that I can give you a little bit of compare and contrast. But these are just some that I feel like are really well done, that are 100% worth your time watching if you have not seen them before. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite films of the decade so far, and that is I'm Thinking of Ending Things from Charlie Kaufman. I have read this book as well, and I know that there are people that are kind of back and forth. I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I enjoyed the book. I think the book does a really nice job at creating solid atmosphere. It's truly horrific, but what I like so much more about the movie is the dialogue that Charlie Kaufman incorporates, and I feel like the way that it kind of picks apart mental health and depression and suicidal ideation, it's so much more palpable than anything that's incorporated into the book. The performances in this movie are absolutely incredible. Jessie Buckley and Jesse Plemons are both amazing. Toni Collette's in this movie and she is phenomenal. It's such a strange, weird, atmospheric movie that you're constantly questioning what's happened, but by the time you get to the third act, it sort of unpacks everything and makes the movie really hard hitting and upsetting. And it's very difficult to process a lot of it without just getting incredibly sad because of how heavy it all is. It's beautifully shot. There are so many sequences in this movie. Charlie Kaufman never ceases to amaze me, but there are so many beautiful sequences in this movie that just stick out in my brain. There is a lot asked of these actors in this movie, and I feel like they all deliver. It's streaming on Netflix. It's been streaming on Netflix for a while. I'd highly recommend checking it out if you've never seen it before. Another more modern book to movie adaptation is the film Eileen, which is based off the book by Otessa Moshfegh. I read the book shortly before I watched this movie, and it's a pretty fantastic adaptation. I feel like everything translates over really well. There's not a lot left out of the book in the movie, and the movie is such a fun ride. It changes tones a lot. It creates a very interesting dynamic for our characters because Anne Hathaway's character in particular in this movie, we're constantly questioning who she is and what she's doing, and that makes the movie so much more fascinating to watch. I also think Thomasin McKenzie is an incredibly underrated actress, and anytime she shows up in anything, she just really impresses me. And I think the chemistry between these characters is really great. I think the development of the characters is fantastic. We get just enough time with Thomasin McKenzie's character to learn about her and the struggles that she's going through, which makes the situation hit so much harder. I loved this movie a lot. I was kind of surprised by a lot of the middling reviews when it was released, but I'm a huge fan of Otessa Moshfegh, and I'm really glad that this movie captures what she was going for with the book. Up next is A Clockwork Orange, the Stanley Kubrick film, and I honestly did not like the book at all. I read the book 2 years ago for the very first time. Even the author in the foreword of the book discusses how, like, if it wasn't for Stanley Kubrick's movie, this book wouldn't be anything, and like he doesn't even really appreciate the book all that much, which I find really fascinating because I think the movie is so incredible at just depicting this idea of violence and hypersexuality, and because of the control that society places on us when it comes to certain moral ideas and certain controls that they have over people, that there's this want and need in certain individuals to act out in a very extreme way. And so thinking about societal repression on certain issues in contrast with these characters doing these really horrific, awful things to an extreme degree is really fascinating. And I don't think it's touched on in the book as much in a way that I think is as thoughtful. But in this movie, it's just right there. It's all laid out for you in a way that I think is very fascinating. It's beautifully shot because it's Kubrick. It's disturbing because it's Kubrick. And it's just a movie that I never stop thinking about. It's fantastic. I've revisited it a few times over the years, and it just keeps getting better. We'll just get the other Kubrick out of the way here, and that is The Shining, one of my favorite horror films of all time. I love both the book and the movie. I feel like Stephen King hated on this movie adaptation a little bit too much. And I think what makes this adaptation is so special is because of how drastically different it is from the book, and it does its own thing. It's like Kubrick takes what makes the book special, but then kind of twists it on its head and just turns it into a story about pure evil. The book is so much more about this familial tension, and Jack's character in the book isn't necessarily a bad person. He's just made a lot of mistakes and done bad things in his life. And the book is a lot about his internal struggle to fight off this entity to try to not be evil. Whereas in Kubrick's, Jack is just awful from the start, and he just gets worse and worse and worse as the movie goes on. And so I think those contrasts are really interesting, but the movie, it's beautifully shot, it's super atmospheric, it is truly still one of the most horrific films I've ever seen. It's just one of those movies that gets under your skin, and the isolation of the Overlook Hotel makes it all the more eerie and uncomfortable. It's one of the best soundtracks to a movie of all time, and it's a film that I think about on a regular basis. It's a phenomenal Stephen King adaptation. Up next, and this is a little cheat, but it is The Haunting of Hill House, the Mike Flanagan miniseries on Netflix. This is one of the greatest miniseries of all time, and I feel like it encapsulates everything that makes the book special, but does its own thing with it, which I think is what's most important about Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan has taken on several projects now that are based on literary works, and somehow he always adds his own spin to it and turns it into something so very special. And what I love so much about Mike and what I love so much about Hill House is he is incredible with character development. He writes some of the most fantastic characters who, because he does a lot of miniseries, you get the time to spend time with these characters in a way that makes all of their storyline pay off in a way that is satisfying and not disappointing. This thing is truly scary. It's beautifully shot. There are so many episodes of this thing that are just seared in my memory, and it plays out like an extended movie. And I think if you've never seen any of Mike Flanagan's work before, watch Hill House first because it is amazing. I'm going to quickly mention another mini series, and that is The Queen's Gambit starring Anya Taylor-Joy. This is one of my favorite mini series in a very, very long time. It also plays out like a long form movie. It's just one isolated series, but it's able to encapsulate everything that the book is trying to bring across as well. This is probably my favorite performance from Anya Taylor-Joy in her career. She is asked a lot of in this, especially with the damaged psyche of the lead character, and I think she just portrays this character in a way that is so easy to invest yourself in, and every episode is so well done. The dialogue is incredible, the music in the series is fantastic, and it's one that since I watched it initially, I have been really itching to revisit, and I'm planning on doing so sometime in the very near future. Now for one of the big heavy hitters, and that is The Lord of the Rings. Yes, I'm talking about all three films: Fellowship, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. Three of the most perfect films ever made that capture everything that makes those books so very, very special. Now, there are things between the books and the movies that are switched around and changed just due to the way that Peter Jackson wanted to tell the story, but I don't think shifting any of that takes anything away from how special these movies are. The performances are amazing. I feel like the casting for each and every role was so perfectly done. These people all fit the characters so perfectly to how they are written in the books. It's beautifully shot. I feel like even the CGI, even though some of the stuff is a little dated over the years, it still works really well. There's none of it that's just so incredibly bad that you're thinking, oh man, this looks really awful. And I think that's because Peter Jackson knew, translating over time, how technology would grow. He knew what to focus on. And there's so much practicality in the effects in this movie as well, that it's a solid balance. It's emotionally driven. It makes me cry almost every time I watch these three movies. It's just a perfect trilogy of films. And then I'm just going to do one more today, and it's very obvious because of how recent it is, but Dune Parts 1 and 2. What an incredible adaptation of a book. This encapsulates everything that makes the book special, but translating it into film form, you get all of these characters brought to life in a way that no one else has been able to do. David Lynch tried to do it. He was cut off. There have been several directors that have tried to approach this material, but because Villeneuve was given two films to bring this story to life, the first film, he was able to just kind of lay down exposition, bring you into this world, and the second film was just letting it all come to life. And I think that's so amazing. There are little bits and pieces changed, but I think for the better. I really like the direction that the movie was going, especially at the end of the second film. The action is incredible. The dialogue sequences are fantastic. The performances are just some of the best of the best. And at Dune Part 2, if you did not see it, you are truly missing out. One of the greatest science fiction films ever made, in my opinion. And I hope Denis gets to make Dune Messiah, because I just really want more in this universe. So what are some of your favorite book to movie adaptations? Let me know in the comments. This is obviously just some of them. I could have listed 25 to 30, but I did not want this video to be 50 minutes long. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.